They made me wear his coat. 12 years old? Drowning in a dead man's shoulders. The sleeves hung past my wrists like wilted branches, and the collar stank of aftershave and cigarettes. I remember standing next to the hole they dug for him, sweat pooling at my spine while the preacher mispronounced our last name. Everyone cried like they knew him. I didn't. My mother didn't cry. She kept her hands in her pockets and stared down like she could already see the rot working beneath the casket. I tried to take her hand. She pulled away. That was the first time I buried him. The second time began with a phone call. 21 years later. Just after midnight. My wife asleep in the other room. The dog snoring against the radiator. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Is this? The woman asked, saying my name like it was something she wasn't supposed to speak aloud. Who's asking? He asked me to find you. Before he dies. Again. The room turned colder than the night outside. You have the wrong person. He said you'd say that. I met him in a motel. Not a hospital. Not a home. A 2-story off I-95 with a flickering vacancy sign and rooms that reeked of bleach and last chances. He was thinner. Grayer. Still alive. My father. Not a ghost. Not a memory. Not ashes in the earth where I watched him be buried. He sat on the bed, wearing a t-shirt stained with soup and sweat, his legs wrapped in a blanket like he was already halfway gone. You're not real, I said. He smiled. Not kindly. Neither are most things we survive. There are 2 kinds of lies. The kind you tell other people. And the kind you tell yourself until you forget it was ever a lie. He was the second kind. A man who disappeared before he ever left the room. A man who trained his hands to vanish, his voice to rot behind locked doors. And yet there he was. Alive. Waiting. Why? I asked. Because I'm dying. You already did. Not enough. I wanted to scream. To punch the TV off the wall. To pour his soup down the drain and spit in the sink. Instead, I sat in the chair across from him. Because even now, I was still that boy in the too big coat, waiting for a man who never really lived to tell me why he ever bothered dying. You don't get to just show up now, I said. I didn't show up, he wheezed. I never left. That made me laugh. Loud. Bitter. So the funeral? Casket was filled with sandbags. My cousin worked the crematorium. And Mom? Didn't know. At first. Then she did. Didn't stop me. I stared at him. And I started to remember. That night, the one before the funeral, her hands shaking. The bruises on her wrist. How she flinched when the door creaked. How she packed my bag before the sun even rose. What did you do to her? He didn't answer. Just stared at the wall. And I knew. I knew why she let us bury him. So why now? I asked again. Because I want you to know what really happened. Before it's too late. I laughed again. It's already too late. But I didn't leave. I didn't scream. I just sat there. Because sometimes the dead come back not to be forgiven, but to make sure the wound never closes. And I needed to know how deep mine went. Because I buried my father once. And now I had to decide whether I'd do it again. For real this time. There was something wrong with the clock in room 216. It ticked out of rhythm. Like it wasn't measuring time, just mocking it. Every minute stretched and stuttered, making an hour feel like 2, and a conversation feel like a confession. The curtains didn't close all the way. A neon light from the sign outside bled through, turning everything inside the room the color of a fresh bruise. Purple. Red. Ugly truce shades. He was already up when I came back the next day. Didn't ask if I would return. Just acted like I never left. Like nothing had ever been broken. You look like her, he said. I didn't answer. He was drinking soup again. Same mug. Same stain on his shirt. Different smell in the room, though, something metallic. Like blood or regret. Start talking, I said. About what? Don't play games. You died. Then you didn't. That's not the kind of thing you put off. He chuckled. Then coughed. A wet, rattling sound. You think I wanted this? No, I said. I think you needed it. He tapped the spoon against his mug. Looked out the slit in the curtain like he expected someone to be watching. I left because staying would have killed me. So you killed yourself instead. It wasn't like that. Then explain it. He sighed. Rubbed a spot on his arm like it hurt just remembering. There was a man. He said he could erase everything. New name. New city. Clean record. I owed people. Dangerous ones. And I owed you worse. So you vanished. He nodded. And now you're here. Another nod. To fix it? He shook his head. To warn you? That's when I started to wonder if he was sick in more ways than one. Warn me about what? The same people. They're still out there. Still cleaning up messes. I didn't die back then, but I wasn't the only one who disappeared. What the hell are you talking about? He looked at me for the first time, not like a ghost, but like a man who knows how close he is to turning into one. They made me choose. Them or you. Silence. Then. You're lying. Not this time. I stood up. You faked your death to protect me? You faked your death to escape your own damn shame. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence was an admission. The motel walls were thin. I could hear someone laughing in the room next door. A TV blaring static through a broken speaker. A dog barking at something that wasn't there. I sat back down. What did you do before you left? The night before? He blinked. Slow. Heavy. I kissed your forehead. Packed your mother's things. Left a note I knew she'd never read. Then I took the car to the river, left it running with the doors open, and walked away. And the casket? Rented. You'd be surprised what people will help you pull off when they think you're the one in the crosshairs. He smiled again. That same cruel smirk I remembered from 1,000 too late apologies. I used to think dying was easier than apologizing. I leaned forward. And now? He coughed again. Now I think I deserve to die twice. I stayed another hour. Didn't say much. Just watched him fall asleep with the TV playing a rerun of something too bright, too cheerful for a place like that. When I left, I closed the door soft. The hallway was empty. Except for the humming. The clock outside his room ticked slower than before. Or maybe I just heard it clearer now. Like the world was counting down. And time, even borrowed, always comes with interest. Because room 216 didn't just smell like bleach. It smelled like debt. And I was starting to wonder who owed who. He kept it in a Gideon Bible. Page 87, Book of Psalms. Tucked like a secret between psalms of deliverance and vengeance. I only found it because I couldn't sleep, and because the ticking from the wall clock was driving me insane. I needed something to tear apart. Instead, I found a photo. 4x6. Glossy. Edges curled from years of hiding. Me. But not me. Older. Maybe 17. Standing in front of a blue car I never owned, with a girl I didn't recognize holding my hand like we were something permanent. In the background, a gas station I'd never been to, sky gray like rain had just passed or was about to. But it was me. Same scar above the eyebrow. Same crooked posture. Same look, half ready to leave, half wondering who's watching. I sat on the motel bed for 20 minutes trying to breathe. He was snoring on the other side of the room, oblivious. Or pretending. I waited until dawn to confront him. Where did you get this? He blinked into the morning light like it hurt. Then he saw the photo. And he didn't flinch. I thought you'd find it sooner. This isn't possible. Isn't it? I've never seen this girl. Never been to that place. That's not my car. He rubbed his eyes. No. But it's still you. I didn't know whether to throw the picture or light it on fire. Are you saying this was faked? No. I'm saying it's a memory that didn't happen to you. Not this version of you. That's when the air changed. Tilted. Like the room didn't believe in physics anymore. He sat up slowly. Legs dangling off the bed like he wasn't sure if the floor was still there. What do you know about Project Cirrus? I don't. Should I? He nodded. They called it soft loop exposure. Said it could save people. Said it could bury memories so deep they'd never crawl back up. But the problem is, sometimes, when you kill a memory, it doesn't stay dead. Are you saying this picture, is from one of those memories? He coughed. Winced. Nodded. You were part of the trial. I didn't have a choice. Not really. They said it would keep you safe. Said it would erase what you saw. What did I see? He looked down at his hands. They were shaking. You saw me kill someone. It was like hearing your own scream underwater. Muffled. Delayed. Terrifying in its slowness. You're lying. No. Not this. You saw me in the alley behind the pawn shop. You were 10. You thought I didn't know you were there. You didn't speak for weeks. I staggered back. And instead of helping me, you let them rewrite me? I let them protect you. You let them erase me. Silence. He picked up the photo. Turned it over. Wrote something on the back in shaking blue ink. Then handed it back. I read it. The year you didn't get to have. I left the motel that night. Drove nowhere. Stopped at a diner with flickering lights and coffee like hot mud. Stared at that photo for hours. Trying to remember something that might have been mine. That might still be. And wondering, not for the first time, if you dig deep enough into grief, do you find truth? Or just another version of yourself that someone else decided was easier to forget? I went back. Not to the motel. Not yet. First, I drove to the edge of the old city, where storefronts slouch and windows board themselves up, where pawn shops don't need signs because everyone knows where they are. I found the one. Still there. Same flickering neon. Same mural half painted on the brick wall out back. The paint had cracked like old skin. And just beyond it, the alley. It wasn't in my memory. It was in my bones. I didn't remember being 10. But I remembered the cold. The shape of the bricks against my back. The sharp stink of oil and copper and fear. And then, a shadow that didn't belong to any man. I walked deeper into the alley. It was narrower than I expected. Tall fences now. A dumpster. New graffiti. But beneath it, in the cracks of the asphalt, I saw it. A faint stain. Like something spilled there refused to fade. Rust red. Black at the edges. Blood. Or something that remembered being blood. I turned around and he was there. My father. Paler than before. Wrapped in a coat too thin for the cold. Eyes distant. Like he was seeing something that hadn't happened yet. You remembered. Not all of it. But enough. He nodded. This is where it started. And ended. What happened here? He stepped closer. He wasn't human. What? The man I killed. He looked like one. Talked like one. But when he died, he didn't bleed like one. Didn't break like one. I stared at him. What are you saying? They were watching me. Project Cirrus. They knew I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to. So they gave me a choice, vanish or be vanished. I leaned against the wall. And me? You were collateral. You saw it happen. They said your mind was unstable. That they could soft loop the trauma. Erase the memory. Redirect the life. I looked down at the stain again. He didn't bleed like a man? No. What did he bleed like? He was quiet for a long time. Then, like noise. I shivered. Noise? Like someone screaming in reverse. Like glass shattering inside your skull. Like every lie you've ever believed about the world breaking all at once. He crouched down. Touched the stain. I hear it when I sleep. So do I whispered. There was a camera bolted above the pawn shop's back door. I hadn't noticed it until then. It was pointed at the alley. The lens cracked. "They still watching?" He didn't answer. Just said, "They don't need cameras when they own memory." We stood there, side by side, staring at the place where something had ended. And maybe begun. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel closure. What I felt was observed. Like some part of me that had never fully formed was finally surfacing. Not a memory. Not a dream. But a piece of myself carved from shadow. And now that I'd found it, I wasn't sure I could go back. Because some places hold onto you long after you've left. And some blood never dries. Especially when it wasn't blood at all. The pawn shop owner didn't remember me. Or said he didn't. But there was something in his eyes. A twitch, a skip, like a broken frame of film when he looked at my face. He leaned on the counter, tattoos up both arms like timelines he couldn't change. His voice gravel and bourbon. "You looking for something specific, or just haunted like the rest of us?" "There used to be a camera out back." Pointed at the alley. "It's still record?" "Haven't checked it since the floods." "Probably doesn't even blink anymore." "Mind if I see it?" He studied me. Long. Then shrugged. "You want ghosts, be my guest." He handed me a key. Rusted. Labeled 216, same number as my father's room. Coincidence? I was starting to believe those didn't exist anymore. The basement was worse than I expected. Concrete walls. Damp. Stale with mildew and iron. The kind of cold that sank into your teeth. Old TVs. VCRs stacked like corpses. Boxes labeled in faded marker. 92 burglary, 95 loop fail, 97 // redline // I found the DVR unit. Covered in a plastic bag, duct taped like it had been quarantined. Hooked it to a monitor. Static. Then flicker. Then footage. A date, March 14th, 2001. 10:42 p.m. The alley. My father. The not man. I watched it happen. Slow. Brutal. Wrong. It looked like a fight, until it didn't. Until the thing my father stabbed began to fold. Like paper burning backwards. Limbs retracting. Bones collapsing into themselves. Its scream cracked the speakers, a sound like language drowning. And then, gone. My father stood alone. Looked at the camera. Said nothing. Then turned and walked away. He didn't come back to the motel that night. I stayed up waiting. Flipping the photo of me that wasn't me over and over. Reading the line he wrote. "The year you didn't get to have." At 3:16 a.m., the motel phone rang. I answered. A whisper. "He's at the hospice now. They found him outside the train tracks. Freezing. Confused. Kept asking for the man with no fingertips." "What?" "Room 9. He's waiting." Click. The hospice sat behind a burned-out church. I found room 9. Inside, my father. Breathing shallow. Lips blue. Blankets tucked to his neck. And beside him, in a chair of peeling leather, a man. Middle-aged. Balding. Glasses cracked down one side. Gloves on. "You're him," he said without looking up. "Who are you?" He held up his hands. Removed the gloves. No fingertips. Just smooth, scarred skin where they should have ended. Flesh melted into nothing. "They took them," he said. "Said I touched something I shouldn't have." I sat. "You were there that night?" He nodded. "Watched from the fire escape. Tried to scream, but it broke my voice. Hasn't come back since." He coughed. Smiled without humor. "You ever bleed from your teeth?" "Not your gums. The teeth themselves? That's what happens when you see things too early." I swallowed. "What was he?" He looked at my father, who hadn't stirred. "We called them echoes. Not from here. Not from anywhere. Just from what could have been." They slip in through choices you don't make, through futures that never arrive. I stared at him. You're insane. Probably. But I still remember your name, don't I? Even though they tried to burn it out. Even though I shouldn't have any left. He leaned forward. You saw it. You remember. Even now, behind the walls they built. And in that moment, I did. I remembered the scream. The backwards folding. The color of the blood that wasn't blood at all. And I remembered something else. That it hadn't come from my father. It came from me. He was just the one who stood in the way. And maybe, that's why they buried him the first time. To protect me from something that wasn't done hunting. Something that might still be coming back. Or maybe it never left at all. I hadn't stepped into that house since the funeral. The first one. Mom sold it after he died, packed what was left of our lives into storage and warnings. I never asked where it all went. Didn't want to know. But now, with her long gone and him dying again, I needed something from before it was all smoke and edits and shadows folded backward. So I went back. The house stood where I left it, though the world around it didn't. Fence rotted through. Weeds up to my knees. The porch slumped like it had given up. But the key still worked. The air inside smelled like mildew and burnt toast memories. The floor creaked its old rhythm. The walls, yellowed from time, seemed to hum softly, like they remembered how to ache. I walked straight to my old bedroom. The door stuck. I had to shove it. Inside, dust and shadows. A toppled bookshelf. My old mattress on the floor, sagging like it had carried too many nightmares. But then, the window. It wasn't supposed to be there. South wall. Above the desk. A square of clean glass with white painted trim, glowing faintly like it didn't know the rest of the room had gone dark. I stepped closer. The latch was undone. It was open. A cold wind curled inside like a question that had waited years to be asked. I looked out. But there was no backyard. No street. Just fog. Rolling, slow, like breath on a mirror. And behind the fog. Movement. I shut the window. Tried to. But it didn't budge. The latch spun freely in place. No lock. No give. I backed away. Took out my phone. No signal. I opened the bedroom closet. Inside, boxes. My old drawings. School projects. One labeled in a hand I didn't recognize. Recursion sketches. Inside, dozens of pages. Drawings of the same room. Over and over. My room. From the corner by the door. Same angle. Same mess. But each sketch had one change. The window. In the first, it was a crack. Then a slit. Then full. Then open. And in the last one, something was coming through it. Something long. Dark. Too many joints. Not enough skin. I dropped the sketch. Spun back around. The window was closed now. But the glass was fogged. From the inside. A single handprint pressed into the pane. Fingers too long. Palm too wide. Not mine. Not his. Not human. I backed into the hallway. Nearly tripped down the stairs. Tried the front door. Locked. Jammed. No movement. I called for help. My voice didn't echo. It absorbed. Like the house had learned how to eat sound. Back upstairs, the window was now open again. Curtains I didn't remember hung limp at its sides. I grabbed the recursion sketches, shoved them into my bag, and ran. The moment I stepped past the threshold, the front door opened cleanly. Behind me, a thump. From upstairs. Something moved. But I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. Because as I stepped onto the porch, I saw it, etched in chalk just below the doormat. Welcome back, version 3. I didn't go home. I didn't go to the motel. I drove until the fog cleared and the sun cut through the windshield. Parked on the side of the highway and stared at my hands like they were going to disappear. Something is bleeding through. Time, memory, self. There's a version of me that lived a life I don't remember. And something is following him back through the cracks. Maybe it always has. Maybe I was never supposed to leave that window open. I didn't sleep. I drove until the road stopped looking like a road. Until gas stations stopped taking cards and started asking questions. I pulled into a 24-hour diner shaped like a bullet and sat at the counter for 4 hours. Coffee. Pie. More coffee. My eyes burned. My brain wouldn't settle. I kept checking my reflection in the napkin holder like I was waiting to change. Around hour 5 I saw it. Under the skin of my left wrist. A number. Not a tattoo. Not a scar. A raised shape, like a vein too straight to be natural. 03. I called the only number that still made sense. The man with no fingertips answered after one ring. You saw it, didn't you? What am I? He was silent. Then, not the first. Maybe not the last. But the one that stuck. What happened to the others? Version 1 broke. Mind collapsed under the recursion pressure. Dreamed in rewind. Stopped eating. Forgot how to breathe. 2. Too perfect. Didn't question the cracks. He was a threat because he never knew he was a copy. They pulled him. Pulled? Erased. I felt my stomach twist. And me? You saw the truth and kept standing. That's rare. That's dangerous. That's why they're watching you again. I drove back to the hospice. My father was asleep, mouth open, chest barely moving. But on the nightstand, another envelope. Labeled, for version 3. If he makes it this far. Inside, a letter. You're the one that remembers. The others dreamed, obeyed, or vanished. But you're the one who made it back to the window. You always do. There was a photo. 4 versions of me. Sitting on a bench outside a playground. Each one slightly off. One too tall. One too clean. One with eyes too wide. And me. I was the only one not looking at the camera. I was staring at something behind it. Something casting no shadow. Something not there. The door creaked. My father groaned. Opened his eyes. They'll come soon. Who? The resetters. If they know you've read this far, they'll pull again. Then help me. I did. I buried myself so you'd have time. So they'd think the cycle failed. He coughed. Blood. But it shimmered wrong. Not red. Not real. You need to find the original node. The first place they split you. If you collapse the loop, you rewrite everything. Where is it? That alley. But not now. Not in this layer. He grabbed my wrist. Hard. His eyes went dark. You were never supposed to last this long. You're not just remembering. You're mutating. They'll come for you because you're adapting. His grip loosened. He died. Again. This time, he didn't get back up. I left the room with the letter. Found my reflection in the hospice window. Blinking back at me. Except it blinked twice. And I only did once. Something is bleeding through. I was version 3. But not for much longer. They came at 3:33 a.m. Because of course they did. I was holed up in an abandoned rest stop 30 miles outside the city. The kind of place you forget you visited until it shows up in a dream. I'd covered the windows. Disassembled my phone. Burned the letter. But it wasn't enough. It never is. The power cut first. Not the lights, those were battery. I mean the air. The static hum of electricity vanished. Like someone had unplugged the sky. Then the mirrors started humming. Low. Ugly. Like they were remembering something they'd been told to forget. And in the reflection. Movement. Not in the room. Just inside the glass. The first resetters didn't knock. They bled through the walls. Tall. Gray. No features. Just outlines of where a man should be, vibrating like footage run through a paper shredder. One raised a hand. Time staggered. I felt my lungs reverse. breath folding inside out. I fell to my knees. "You are outside the protocol," it said. Its voice wasn't sound. It was pressure. Like migraine pain shaped into syllables. "You are version 3.1. Unauthorized progression." I laughed through the blood trickling from my nose. "You made me. We refined you. And now you're scared." The others moved closer. "You breached loop stability. Accessed latent recursion. Detected memory bleed. I remembered the window. You were not supposed to." I threw the recursion sketches at them. They stopped. One reached down. Picked up the last page. The one with the thing crawling through. It studied it. Then trembled. A ripple passed through its body. Like fear. "You didn't make that, did you?" I whispered. No answer. "That wasn't your work. That came before." The room bent. The air turned thick. A crack opened in the mirror. Something else tried to come through. Something not on their schedule. The resetters turned. Began to chant, not in words but in cycles. A waveform of language that hurt to hear. The crack closed. Barely. But now they were looking at me like I was the window. Like I was the breach. "You are unstable. I'm evolving. That is not permitted." "Then stop me." One lunged. Faster than thought. Its hand hit my forehead. Fire. Screams. Years pouring backward through my skull. I saw the alley again. The creature. But this time, I saw it look at me. And smile. Not at fear. At recognition. It knew me. And it was proud. I woke up in the woods. Wet. Cold. The reset hadn't worked. I was still me. But now, something was different. My hands glowed faintly in the dark. Like static. Like memory trying to escape skin. And in the dirt by my feet carved deep. Version 3.2, escalation triggered. They tried to erase me. But all they did was upgrade the glitch. And now, I think I know what that creature was. Not a threat. A predecessor. A prototype. And maybe. A promise. The recursion is gone. The loop has collapsed. The alley is silent. The sketches no longer shift when I look away. And yet, I feel it in my skin. In the marrow. A hum. A pulse. Not memory. Not warning. An invitation. I went back to the house one last time. Not to reclaim anything. Not to destroy it. Just to see if the window was still there. It was. Exactly as I left it. South wall. White trim. Latch broken. Open. Fog behind it, pulsing slow like the breath of something waiting. I stepped into the room. And this time, I didn't flinch. I sat at the desk beneath the window. Opened the drawer. Inside, one final drawing. My hand had made it, but I didn't remember doing it. The room. Me. Sitting. Facing the open window. And behind the glass. Myself. Not different. Not older. Just clearer. More whole. Like everything version 1 and 2 and 3 had tried to be finally existed in one frame. Like the creature in the alley had not been a monster, but a rough draft. And I was the revision. I stood. Walked to the window. The fog parted. On the other side, another room. Identical. But not mirrored. Not reversed. A parallel in process. A version still becoming. And in it, a boy. Me, 10 years old. Wide-eyed. Staring back. Hand on the glass. I raised mine. Matched it. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. His lips moved. One word. Remember. And then he was gone. The window closed on its own. The latch clicked. The room exhaled. I felt something shift in the air. In the house. In me. I walked outside. Past the porch. And for the first time, I didn't look back. Now when I sleep, I don't dream of alleys. or creatures, or versions of myself dissolving like smoke. I dream of doors. Hundreds. Thousands. Each one opening. Each one leading somewhere real. Somewhere next. Not past. And when I wake up, I check my wrist. The mark is gone. No version. Just skin. But I still feel it. The echo. The choice. Because the recursion might be gone. But the window always opens. And the next time something crawls through it, it might not be coming for me. I might be the one stepping in.